Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, Future Proofing Your Knowledge Management Strategy in 2025. My name is David Flach, and I'm the Senior Marketing Manager here at Bloomfire. I'll be your moderator today, and I am joined by Betsy Anderson, who is our Director of Customer Success and also a Certified Knowledge Manager. Betsy has spent over a decade helping Fortune 500 and Global 2000 companies launch, scale, and sustain high-impact knowledge management programs. Today, we're going to explore strategies for future-proofing your KM approach, covering executive buy-in, feedback loops, personalization, integrations, and long-term sustainability. So we want to keep this interactive. We do have a question and answer portal right over here. Please feel free to drop those questions in throughout the presentation, and we will do our best to get to those if we have some time at the end. So Betsy, let's dive in. So let's start. Why is it critical to future-proof your knowledge management strategies in 2025?
Because, well, first of all, thank you for the intro, David, but ultimately, knowledge is not a guarantee, and the investment in knowledge is not a guarantee. KM success really does start at the top, and if leadership doesn't see KM's impact, securing budget and resources can really become a challenge and ultimately put your KM program at risk. The key to connecting KM to business priorities, growth, efficiency, and risk reduction. So that it just tends to be you're not gonna have the investment you need for your program, for your tools, unless you're really getting that buy-in long term.
Yeah, it's a harsh reality, but such an important one. You know, I think without leadership buy-in, even the best programs have a hard time thriving. So moving on a little bit, in your experience, what's been one of the best ways to communicate knowledge management's impact to a leadership team?
So I'll give you a customer example. We have a team that they really prioritize making sure that every single one of their KM strategies ties to their organization's strategic priorities. That's the language that leadership speaks. So being able to speak to value, to ROI, the companies that tend to track impact metrics beyond just the platform metrics, but things that really speak to the impact on the work, those are the teams that have a much easier time getting buy-in from leadership. So helping draw that line between the metrics that you're measuring for KM and the organizational goals, and helping show how those metrics support your organizational strategy. That's really what your executive team wants to understand.
Yeah, that's great. And I know in some of our other conversations, we've talked a little bit about, building out a data-driven story. Do you want to touch on anything there?
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to building a data-driven story, one of the things that you want to consider is how knowledge access translates to cost savings and productivity gains. We have to be able to tie those dots, like I was saying earlier, to how KM is going to support those initiatives. A great example that we have from a Fortune 1000 customer, what they have been able to do is calculate a 17x ROI from KM investments. Yeah, absolutely. And that, as a result, that's millions saved in search efficiencies, reduced onboarding time. And if you're able to draw that line again from the internal KM metrics to how your engagement in knowledge is tying to those strategic initiatives, that's really going to be the story that your leadership needs to hear.
Yeah, that's real business impact.
Absolutely.
And when leaders can see that, financial gains and operational improvements that that KM is providing, it's much more likely to become a priority for them. So speaking of priorities, stagnation can be a big challenge for many KM teams. Talking about continuous improvement, how do you ensure continuous improvement when teams may struggle with stagnation?
Absolutely. So feedback loops have proven to be the most effective way for the teams that we work with to continually get that feedback, that fresh perspective, if you will, for their knowledge programs. When KM becomes disconnected from user needs, that's really when the stagnation happens. Knowledge has to be constantly evolving for your organization to really benefit from it. So a couple of recommendations that I always bring to customers is make sure that you have formed a stakeholder committee with diverse perspectives. It's tempting to only bring in leadership representation for those stakeholder groups, but really leadership is not always, and by leadership, I'm even including managers here, leadership doesn't always have the same visibility into the work that team members do. So being able to get perspectives at the manager level, at the executive level, but also the people doing the actual work and understanding what their needs are around knowledge, that's going to help support their individual goals, which will which will roll up to the team goals, which will roll up to the org-wide goals. So getting a diverse stakeholder group is critical. And another piece of that is really making sure that you're leaning into detractor feedback. We love getting to hear that our program is working really well for people. It makes us feel good, but it's not very constructive. We can't improve based on positive feedback. We can do more of the same, but we can't evolve and change. So being able to lean into the folks who maybe aren't getting a lot of value out of the knowledge program, getting their feedback and then taking steps to meet their needs, because, and I've probably said this on a webinar before, but your best proponents and champions are going to be converted critics because they've thought through all of those pieces of why this isn't working and how we can make it better. Yeah. Another thing, and I've got lots of thoughts on this, so bear with me. Another thing that we talk a lot about is making sure that the things we're measuring are tied to the work. I said this, alluded to this a little bit earlier, but we want to make sure that the things that we're asking our teams to measure, some examples of really practical things might be call resolution time, reduced errors in quality, making sure that your CSAT score for CS teams, having actual metrics that we measure as a team and making the assumption that KM impacts that. So KM metrics shouldn't just be your searches, your views, your platform engagement. That's really, I mean, that's great, but that's not really telling the whole story. What we want to understand is, again, how KM impacts the real work. And the only way you're going to know that is if you're measuring the real work. Right. So that's a key piece of it. And then once you're measuring that, make sure that you're reviewing it either quarterly or semi-annually to make sure that you're not just capturing that and reviewing it, but that you're sharing it out. Some other ways to get more of that anecdotal feedback is surveying team members, having focus groups, and then using that to sort of analyze what we're doing in KM and how we can improve. And then a final recommendation that I've been thinking more and more about just to get fresh knowledge in. We talked about stagnation. Communities of practice, if your organization's not doing that today, that is a fantastic way to make sure that you've got your finger on the pulse of how people are working and making sure that you're documenting those conversations so that people who have a shared focus or a shared role can talk regularly about their work and then measure it accordingly and make recommendations for how to improve documentation and knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like this proactive approach. It's to your point, it's not just about tracking usage data. It's really about understanding how knowledge management is improving the way people work. Engaging detractors is a great point too. Like even in my role in marketing, I think the most valuable insights often can come with the people who have differing thoughts or differing opinions, or it's not resonating with, and being able to build upon that is really important. So I want to talk a little bit about an example. Do you have an example of an organization that is successfully using feedback loops?
Yeah, actually, I haven't asked their feedback to say their name, but I'll describe them as a global digital media and technology company. How about that's a descriptive, but not giving anything away here. So this team that we work with, they run semi-annual surveys and quarterly interviews with team members. They actually meet with team members to get real-time feedback, and they do this quarterly. And what I love about that is they are just opening the door to this feedback continually. And as a result, their KM program is constantly evolving to meet the needs of their organization and of the people that make it up. And it's very, very powerful. It served them really well.
Cool. That's a great model for any company looking to keep knowledge management aligned with the real business needs. Now, I want to transition a little bit into something that we've been hearing a lot about, which is personalization. It's a bit of a buzzword, but in your view, Betsy, how does personalization apply to knowledge management?
It's pretty simple. If KM isn't personalized, you're not going to have the adoption you want to see. If people don't understand how the KM program supports their work, there is no reason for them to engage. People are busy. Asking for their time is asking a lot. Yeah. And so if it's not personal to them, if it doesn't impact them directly, they're just not going to opt in. Ultimately, people need to be able to access the right knowledge at the right time and really within the framework of how they work today. So some things that, you didn't ask this, but I'm just going to give it to you. Some things that I've seen that work really well in this area are creating personas, either by role or department, job function, making sure that you're thinking about the different personas who access your knowledge and how to support them, how to personalize the experience. AI can be a great tool for this when it comes to segmenting knowledge, either in feeds or thinking about ways to pull it into particular landing pages or home pages for particular audiences. Another thing is making sure that the workflows in your KM program align to the user workflows. So integrations are a big thing we're talking about this year. We want people to be able to access knowledge in their day-to-day work without having to click into multiple spaces or locations to find the information. We want them to be able to just access the knowledge they need from the tools they use every day. Lots coming on this front from a product perspective. I won't speak to it too much, but lots of very exciting things coming down the pike with this.
Very cool. Yeah, it's not just about convenience. It's about continuing to make knowledge management indispensable. And when employees don't have to hunt for knowledge, they're more engaged and more efficient and less frustrated, and happier people do better work. So with personalization, I want to go back and do some more examples. So any top of mind real world success stories on personalization?
Yeah, one that comes to mind is a financial institution that we work with. Pretty large multinational financial institution, and they use personalization to really, for lack of a better word, control which messages are getting to which team members. When you have a large organization, sometimes as much as it's about providing access to knowledge, it's about providing access to the right knowledge rather than the wrong knowledge. And so they will take time to sort of segment their team members to make sure that they're surfacing the information that's going to be most relevant to them in real time, so that they're not just relying on people to kind of go on an Easter egg hunt and find whatever they can. They're really serving up intentionally. And that's proven to be very, very valuable when it comes to increasing engagement, making sure that their decisions are happening faster, so faster decision making, and better knowledge retention ultimately.
Right. Yeah. No deciding on if the file you need is the one that's labeled final_final v2 March 13th, 2025, or final v2 _final. So it's giving you the right information at the right time and trusting it is critical. So, all right, shifting gears a little bit. Knowledge management can't exist in a silo. How can we prevent knowledge silos and combine tech stacks?
I said it a little earlier, integrations. That's another really key area of focus for us this year. Your KM platform has to work where employees are already working. Some really good approaches that you can take are leveraging things like enterprise search to make sure that knowledge is unified across all platforms. Knowledge is living in a variety of places for all enterprise organizations. And so bringing that together so that we all are aligned is huge. Another thing that has really creeped up to be more and more important as generative AI has come to the forefront is making sure that your AI tools are pulling from your certified knowledge. So limiting their access to just the information that is accurate and certified at your organization. AI is everywhere right now, but it's so important that organizations understand that not information is trusted knowledge. Those aren't always the same thing. And so it's important to make sure that you're curating the content that AI is pulling from to make sure that only the most accurate knowledge is being surfaced. That kind of touches on the personalization piece again, making sure that the right knowledge is getting to the right people. And then, I know it doesn't go without saying, making sure that you're auditing for redundant, obsolete, or trivial data, critical. That is going to be critical for AI readiness, but just as much it's going to make sure that we're not having those silos. And then beyond not having silos, we're actually pulling correct and current information.
Cool. Yeah. Just having the information isn't enough. Kind of like what we've been saying, it has to be trusted. It has to be accessible. I'm curious while we're talking about integrations, like what kind of impact really can integrations have?
Yeah. So I think some that come to mind are just faster response times. If I'm not having to click into multiple tools to find the information I need, I'm going to be able to either respond to a customer more quickly or get back to my job more quickly. I won't need to escalate to my manager as often because all of the information I need is centralized and in a place that I can access. There tends to be better alignment on processes because, again, there's visibility and we're making sure that the right people are seeing every bit of the information that they need. We're also seeing that this reduces onboarding time pretty significantly. If I am a new person, there's so much in a tech stack for an enterprise organization that if I want to ensure that this new person is getting the critical information to get onboarded, the faster that we can get them that information surfaced, regardless of where they're working, it's just going to speed up that onboarding time. And ultimately, I think it's worth noting that when you don't have to look in multiple places and have that frustration, you like your job better. If you can do your job efficiently, you tend to be happier in your work. And so I think improved employee retention is definitely worth noting here too.
Yeah. I mean, those are all huge wins individually. Collectively, it's organizational changing, right? I mean, that's a big deal to address those key areas. So we're coming up to the end of our time. Just have a couple of questions left before we get to audience questions. If we could go back and sort of summarize, like, what does future proofing really mean for KM?
So at its core, it's about continuous alignment with business strategy and being able to leverage technology effectively. So securing executive sponsorship to keep KM aligned with leadership priorities, tracking and reporting those key metrics, not just platform metrics, but the metrics that really impact the business, to make sure that leadership is seeing that ongoing value. And then I would say, lastly, making sure that you're revisiting the KM processes all the time to stay ahead of the workforce and tech changes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, going back to the executive buy-in, I think is a really important thing to touch on again, because that is so important for any initiative. And then tracking those key metrics to tell your story when you're ready, I think is really important. Okay. So, Betsy, I'm going to give you the soapbox for a second. Any final advice for companies who are looking to sustain long-term success with their knowledge management program?
For sure. The first thing I would say is stay agile. The most successful companies constantly evolve their KM strategies to match business needs. Investing in KM is investing in business resilience. And if you don't believe that yet, it's time to lean into it, because it's absolutely the truth. Then from there, I would say, we talked a lot about metrics today and proving value, but metrics are really only as valuable as the communication around them. If you're using metrics that matter to your leadership, you're going to have a good story to tell, but you have to tell it. So every good KM team knows how to be their own, I would say, PR firm to make sure that their good work and their impact is known across the organization.
Yeah, that's a fantastic takeaway. Everybody has a story to tell. We should all feel confident and ready to share that story when the time is right. Betsy, thank you for sharing your expertise. We do have some questions from the audience I want to get to in our last few minutes here. One question that just came in, and I know this topic is near and dear to your heart, about change management. And so the question is, what is the role of change management in KM?
Oh, it's so critical. With a real thriving KM program, people have to show up. Your knowledge contributors have to show up. Your leadership has to show up. Your procurement team has to show up. You have a lot of people that have to come to the table ready to contribute. Yeah. And so that change management piece is about setting expectations, making sure that people are equipped to do what you need them to do and are aligned on the value. So yeah, change management is absolutely critical.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for that question. Okay, another one who maybe shares some of my my prepper planning aspect or view on life. So their question is, what are the biggest pitfalls that companies face when they're trying to future-proof their knowledge management strategies? Like, what are maybe the watch-outs?
Yeah, if you don't have executive buy-in, you are dead in the water. I know that's really dramatic, but the why there is, if you don't have executive buy-in, you're not staying informed about strategic priorities and changes, and you don't have someone sitting at the table advocating for your knowledge program. So executive buy-in is crucial. If you hear nothing else, make sure you've got an executive sponsor, at least one, that is supportive of your KM program. Another thing is failing to integrate KM across multiple systems. We talked about integrations today, but tech fatigue or software fatigue is a real thing, and making sure that your knowledge is available in the tools people use today is critical to just keeping them using it. And then not maintaining those feedback loops that we talked about earlier. You got to stay current, and the only way to stay current is to talk to people and get input.
Yeah, so critical, and I think we've talked about executive buy-in several times, so hopefully that message is resonating. Okay, I think we have time for maybe two more, and this one I think is going back to kind of creating your story. The question that came in was, how can organizations measure the ROI of their KM program as they're, building out their story? Like, what are those ways to measure ROI?
Yep. So again, tying this to the real work, not just taking advantage of things like searches and views and what your platform gives you. That's great, but it's sort of the most shallow step. So understanding what the strategic priorities are for your organization, and then building metrics that are supportive of that, and then drawing the line between how KM supports those metrics. So onboarding time reduction, the ability to find the information they need when they need it, any operational improvements that your KM program has supported. Those are going to be the things that you really need to speak to. So things that impact the real work that you're doing.
Yeah. Great. Yeah, I appreciate that, Betsy. And we had another question come in that was about how you can convince the executive team that knowledge is a worthwhile initiative. And I think what you just touched on is perfect. The other thing I'll mention is that we, as Bloomfire, we have a report coming out in a couple of weeks that will highlight what our customers are saying, and I think there will be a lot of really, really good things for you all to use to continue to build out that ROI story on your own, as you kind of look at the metrics and the data that we're going to be showing, because there's a lot of really great things about how knowledge management has really impacted our customer base.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, I'm going to go ahead and take this opportunity to thank you again, Betsy. This has been a really great conversation. For the audience, we did record this. We'll be sending this out in just a couple of hours, so you can go back and watch it, share it. But really appreciate you joining. We'll also be following up with some of our notes and some of our takeaways. So if you didn't capture everything, we'll be sure to share it with you. So thank you again, everybody, and hope you have a great rest of your day.